Today we're doing something different. Someone did recommend something, and this has to do with basically unofficial responses to videos. And today, the special video we're talking about is shout out to my guy O'Hara and his video titled "The Man Roger Feared the Most." So I have watched that video before, and that video revolves around Whitebeard. Fantastically well made video. So shout out to my guy O'Hara. Don't want to make this seem like an attack on YouTubers, because if it was, I'll let y'all know. This is not that at all. It's just a cool twist and a different perspective from what another YouTuber has said. So the essence of the video is capturing exactly what Whitebeard meant and how he's the unofficial pirate king, even though he was scared out of his mind of certain characters. So maybe our video should be about the people that Whitebeard actually feared the most, but that would be disingenuous because we know Whitebeard, how great of a man he was. But let's put a spin on the title. Who's the man that Roger actually feared the most? Now, I guess just for some context, the fandom is somewhat split because people compare them, but I don't think they're two people that should be compared necessarily. The reason why is that they're two different men, two great men that were chasing after completely different things. There's an impossibly gaping hole in the middle of this discussion, but we'll address that shortly, because when you talk about Whitebeard and Roger, these are two individuals that are coming at things from completely different ends. Roger, probably the most ambitious pirate that we know to date, even including Luffy, because currently Luffy does not care about a lot of the things that he will be chasing after. But as far as the history of the poneglyphs, what it means to the world, what finding the One Piece actually means, doesn't care about that. Roger cared about all of it, the steps, the journey. Every single thing mattered to Roger. For Roger, we don't have enough about his history, which Oda is intentionally hiding from us. His past, his upbringing, his dad, his mom. We have no idea about any of that, but I think we can't reveal that yet because that would probably tell us too much about the D clan. So that's something that's being kept from us. I get it. For Whitebeard, we know he was an orphan and basically was supporting an island all by himself through piracy. And to me, that's what clicked when I think about Whitebeard and how he was chasing after money. And that's why he was with rocks and going after big scores, because that was a quick way in which he could supplement his income so that he could support his family. When we talk about Roger and the man he feared the most, again, Whitebeard aside, because Whitebeard brought his own set of problems or dangers, I guess, to Roger, in which, for me personally, I would not say Roger necessarily feared Whitebeard, more so respected him, obviously. And he has Whitebeard to thank because he was able to become the Pirate King because of Whitebeard's help. Really Odin's, but he had to ask Whitebeard's permission. Whitebeard allowed it. Odin probably would have gone regardless, but Whitebeard gave his blessing for the most part. It is well documented. Okay, well, not really, but it's heavily implied that Roger and Whitebeard they've met several times on the seas, had amazing fights, amazing clashes, and no one really came out on top. I know a lot of times I talk about Whitebeard having the world's strongest man title, but Roger, he was bestowed the title of Pirate King, the person who accomplished something that no other man could, no other pirate could. Because, the world government, they were trying to block that because of things connected to the Void Century. When I think about Roger and his era and his run, the reason why the competition is not as stark as even what Luffy has to go up against, even though you have Whitebeard, Shiki, and those guys, is because people weren't necessarily chasing after the same thing, as far as we know. Roger's main competition didn't even want the Pirate King, didn't even want the One Piece. He just wanted a family. If we're not chasing after the same thing, there's really no reason to fear you. I think that's why the world government, that's why they don't necessarily fear Shanks. They respect him, right? Because he's a Yonko, he's uberly powerful, but for them, they probably want the same thing, peace and balance. In the movie film Red, we get some snippets of things Shanks has talked about, and Shanks basically says there's no equality in this world. So Shanks acknowledges there's no true balance, so maybe he's putting himself in the middle of that to create the balance. So in essence, he kind of agrees with the world government and maintaining the balance for now. How this ties with Roger and Whitebeard is because the man you could say Roger actually feared was none other than Rocksteady Zebek. And the reason why we can use context clues to say that is because to overcome someone like Rocksteady Zebek, Roger even partnered up with a Marine in Monkey D. Garp. So the Rocks incident and everything people talk about in regards to the Rocks crew, the main thing people talk about whenever it comes up is God Valley. And it makes sense. That was a major incident discussed in One Piece chapter 957, where Garp talks about how him and Roger allying and partnering to take down the greatest pirate crew ever, still to this day. It was comprised of Rocks, Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, Shiki. Then you had Captain John, Wang Ji. You had other people, ancillary parts, but those are the big wigs, the heavy hitters. The story does talk about as well that the Rocks pirates leave a major impact on the world. Obviously, they went on to do so. Kaido, Big Mom, and the others. Why would Roger fear someone like Zebek, right? Why was Zebek scary? Well, Zebek threatened Roger's true dream? If Zebek actually accomplished his task and became the king of the world, how would piracy look? How would Roger's dream to sail and figure out the history of the world, how would that look in that era? Because for Zebek, if we're assuming that he knows as much as we think, the poneglyphs, the Void Century, everything would be under basically his control. He would try to control all of it with the power that he would wield. Because mind you, say this does succeed. Rox goes on to become the king, and say Whitebeard, Big Mom, and Kaido, then they choose to stay under him permanently, just serving Rox and his bidding. That's 3 out of the 4 Yonko. 3 out of the 4 upcoming Yonko serving under Rox. They come into their prime, he would be unstoppable. And for Roger, the idea of freedom, even though you could still chase after that, how is that impacted by someone like Rox taking over and probably completely changing this abhorrent system that we currently have? As powerful as Roger was, Rox D. Zebek seemed to have been the guy on the seas, the person to be feared. The reason why we got to give Rox D. Zebek his credit is because he was able to somewhat subjugate people in the likes of Big Mom, Whitebeard, Kaido, Shiki. Even though Shiki did enjoy allying, and that's something that's referenced when we talk about him, they mentioned that Shiki, he didn't really care about peace, and so he would ally to disrupt the peace. So for Zebek, their goals aligned. For Whitebeard, he was chasing after money. Zebek, he was trying to collect resources so that he can move upon the world government. So Whitebeard and him, they aligned there. For Big Mom, I think was more so about clout and notoriety. And also something underlying that's not talked about a lot is the fact that she was popping out babies, at certain times. So an extra amount of support, with an amazing pirate crew like that probably did not hurt. And then she had to learn from the likes of Strusen, etc. Being under someone like Zebek, I'm sure she learned a lot. But again, the reason why Roger would fear someone like Zebek, and then again, it's substantiated by the fact that he allied with Garp to take him down. He was a threat. He wanted to be the king of the world. Now, is that wrong? What he was trying to do? Perspective. Because he didn't care about celestial dragons, seemingly. And so ridding the world of the celestial dragons, but also ridding the world of the world government. I want to be the king. You could understand why someone would support that. The only hole that was in this was, why would Roger work with Garp, right? This man is a pirate, right? He's trying to tear down the celestial dragons, but in a way, he is trying to break the world that probably was not ready to be broken. Something that I've been thinking about as well is Shanks and his ideals. For Roger, I'm not saying Roger was ever trying to keep the balance. I'm not sure how much knowledge he had about the world and trying to maintain that, but there's a difference here. Because for Roger, even though I think some would classify him as a bad man, I think he had great intentions, but sometimes based on perspective was probably ill-mannered, right? People looked at him and it was like, oh man, Roger's a great pirate, but when you mess with his crew, the demon came out. Why I think Roger's a good man is that he understood celestial dragons are not good people. They're not people that we should support, but how can I agree with completely massacring, seemingly, right? Because we don't know for sure exactly everything that was trying to happen in God Valley, but there's a reason why Roger stepped up, and I think Roger felt threatened by Rox and what Rox could accomplish. So for someone that was somewhat on the path of Roger, he had to take him out, right? So as much as he was helping Garp, he was helping himself. To be honest, we may be lowballing him when we think about things or people Roger feared, right? Someone that comes to mind other than Zebek and Whitebeard was obviously Garp, right? Even though they were together taking down Zebek, Garp and Roger almost killed each other a couple times, well, several times is stated. Wouldn't that be a bit scary that someone could completely end your journey at any point? I mean, other things were things like the subscribe button, bruh. Look down, see if you're subscribed. If you're not, click that button. If you already subscribed, drop a like. But no, seriously, Garp is somebody that could be in contention. Garp could probably be in more contention than Whitebeard until we get a bit more in regards to Whitebeard and Roger's interactions, which I don't think there's any more to get. The flashback basically gave us everything that we're gonna get at this point. For a lot of this is speculation, is somewhat trying to piece things together to understand why Roger would help Garp, but I think it's clear. Someone who can subjugate the likes of Whitebeard, right? I'm sure Roger talked to Whitebeard about it, like, wait, why are you under this? You're a great man. We're not sure when they met or when, but why? And once we meet Rox, I know it'll make sense. Because for Odin, before we met him, it was somewhat implied how great he was. And then Odin has surpassed, or I think exceeded, what I expected. So for Rox, and even though he seemed to be short in stature, I'm sure there are many things about him that people looked at and was like, okay, I need to follow this man, right? This man is going to lead me somewhere in which things will be promising for me. And for the most part, everyone that was under his rule, they went on to be great pirates in their own right. Even the Wang Jis and the Captain Johns, they accomplished things because I'm sure Rox had an overwhelming amount of knowledge. he was a D clan member. And for those guys, well, they always bring about a storm. And for Rox, I mean, imagine you had the likes of Rox, Garp, and Roger in the same vicinity, and who was on the right side of history? I guess only time will tell, but based on everything so far, I think the man that Roger actually feared was not Whitebeard, but actually Rox D. Zebek, because he was a real threat to the current system and establishment. And I think Roger wanted to accomplish certain things, and he understood, hey man, to beat a man, you gotta beat the man. And once it's revealed, because I plan on talking about the Rox incident a bit more, because Oda is somewhat implying, or definitely implying, what happened here, but some people are ignoring it. But y'all gotta wait and see. But guys, give me your thoughts. Who was Roger scared of? Would you lean towards Whitebeard, Zebek, or do you think Roger wasn't really scared of anyone? It was just about being the man and accomplishing your goal. Or do you have another reason why you think Roger went after Zebek with Garp? Because that's just odd when you think about it, right? Like, why help a Marine? Were they best friends like that? I don't know. That's a bit weird. But again, give me your thoughts. If you have any recommendations as far as videos you'd like for me to respond to or give a different twist on, that would be fun. Shout out to O'Hara. I'll link his video below. You can check it out. Amazing video. But again, guys, make sure to like the video if you did. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Follow me on Twitter at BragoDAce. Follow me on Instagram at BragoD.Ace. Thank you to my patrons. I appreciate you guys all so much. Again, guys, be sure to like and subscribe. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
I start doubting me, I felt lost.